friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa and you found yourself at Melissa's Cozy Corner, where we talk about books, baking, and other cozy content. And today's a surprise video, and we're also just diving deep into my TBR of fall books, and I'm so excited to talk about all of these books. I'm so excited to share them with you. Maybe you find a couple that you're interested in reading as well, so maybe we can go ahead and buddy read them this fall. I'm just really excited. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in and start with the cozy section of books that I have collected. Real quick note, before we start talking about our 15 books, I do want to talk about that there will be one surprise at the very end of this book collection. So stay tuned. So the first one is, make some space here, The Kamigawa Food Detectives by Hashi Kashawa. This is going to be such a cute, adorable, wonderfully cozy, happy book. So we have, of course, food and cats on the cover, so that already won my heart. But this is actually about a father-daughter restaurant, and they focus on food detecting. So that's, when I first heard about this, I was thinking to myself, what in the world? But after reading the back cover and reading a little bit about this novel, it's about this father-daughter duo who end up doing a little detecting into people's memories and thoughts and bringing back food that they have memories connected to. And once people eat this food, it almost brings back these memories and these feelings of those moments. And it's just really beautiful, really wonderful. And for me, I connect a lot of memories to food. My dad loved cooking when I was younger. And so sometimes when I eat something, I just get taken back to that moment, and it's really wonderful. So I think this is going to be an absolutely beautiful, cozy book for this season, and I'm so excited to read it. And also, there's just a cat on the cover, which is absolutely wonderful. The next book is actually a book I heard about a lot last year, and that's The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Madana. And this just sounds like a hug in a book form. So we follow a young woman who is just trying to figure out who she is and find her family, like found family. And she ends up going to this secret society of irregular witches and meeting other people there and kind of finding out who she is. It's supposed to be very cute, cozy, and wonderful, lovely. I have not heard very much about it other than from many of you and also many other YouTubers that have said this is such a wonderfully lovely story. So I'm really excited to pick this one up. And with this author, Sanju Madana, has actually written a second book that's coming out in October. I don't have it yet, but here's the cover. This book is The Witch's Guide to Innkeeping, and I think this looks so cute. This is actually about another woman who uses up her power bringing back her aunt from the dead, and she's now trying to figure out how to get that power back. She ends up opening an inn. She has a talking fox in her world, and it just sounds really sweet. And I was thinking this book could go either one of two ways. It can go, she ends up gaining her powers back, or she ends up accepting herself for not having all the powers that she used to have. And I think either way, those two storylines would be absolutely sweet, wonderful, and really eye-opening. It's always so great to read a witchy book during this time of year. Last year I made a witch's broom. If you're interested in hearing about how I did that or seeing how I did that, you can check the video here. But last year I had like my witchy October, my month of October of witchiness. And I just really liked that feeling of being connected and grounded to the world and to nature. And I'm hoping these books kind of bring that feeling through. So I'm really excited for those two novels and those cozy feels. And we can't go through the fall season without reading a whodunit. And our classic whodunit author, of course, is Agatha Christie. This one's Peril at End House. I have not heard very much about this one. I picked this one up, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. And this is a whodunit, but a whodunit before the done it happened. So we follow a young woman who's just prone to accidents. She has things falling on her or almost falling on her. She ends up almost getting in car accidents. There's just a lot of not very good things happening around her, and our detective Perot ends up getting involved because one day she ends up having a hole through her hat, and the question becomes, is somebody trying to kill her or not? So this is a little bit different from some of our other Agatha Christie books, and I'm really excited to pick this one up. And like I said, you have to have a whodunit in the middle of fall season, perfect for a dark and stormy night with a dark and stormy Agatha Christie novel also on your lap. And this one's a little bit, I'm going to count these books as one book, because I've talked about this enough, and I'm sorry I'm bringing it up again, but Summon the Keeper by Tanya Huff is one of my absolutely favorite books this year so far. I think it's just really cute and wonderful and sweet and weird and dark, but romantic and spicy. It's like all of my happy things all in one book. And we have a woman who is able to close holes to hell. She has a talking cat. And in this book, she ends up trying to close a hole to hell in an Airbnb. And there's 2 other novels with this. It's called The Keeper's Chronicles. And I'm really excited to pick it up because I'm curious to see if our cat is still sassy and if our girl realizes, hey, work is not everything. Sometimes you have to love your life as well. So I'm counting that as one book, even though it's 3 books, but it's a series, and I'm counting it as one. And I only have this one in my hand right now. The other 2 are coming next week because I have a friend bringing them to me from the US. And this one I picked up in Pal's Bookshop last year with my fiance. And we picked this one up because we read Coraline last year. If you know who wrote it, you know it's a Neil Gaiman book. So we read Coraline last year, and it was dark and uncomfortable, but it's for children, and it was so intriguing. So we picked up the Graveyard book for this year. And this is just going to be really fascinating. So we follow a young boy who, on the back of this novel, it says he lives a normal life. And what we all consider normal may be different. But for this boy, he lives in a graveyard and he talks to ghouls, ghosts, and witches. And he has a connection between life and death, the afterlife and the living life. And something ends up happening where the living life becomes in danger, and he has to go on this quest to figure out what's going on. I'm really excited to read this. I think it's going to be absolutely delightful, bringing those cozy feelings of having a cozy book, but I do think we're going to have some of those Coraline kind of whimsical, dark tentacles kind of going through this novel as well. So I'm really, really excited to pick this one up. I'm really excited to read another Neil Gaiman novel as well. So those are all of our cozy novels, like cozy novels. The next couple are kind of those in-between books. They're not necessarily cozy, they're not necessarily dark, but they're also just random novels I want to read this season. And the first one is actually the book I'm going to be reading next week, and it's called The Paris Bookseller by Carrie Mayer. This is about a shop in Paris called Shakespeare and Company. I'm going to be going to Paris next week, and I thought this would be absolutely perfect. A friend is lending me this book because she read it on her way to Paris, and I think it's just going to be absolutely delightful. It's about a shop that opened up in Paris in 1990 called Shakespeare and Company. It's a bookstore, and this bookstore is considered to be something revolutionary to literature. Hemingway went there, all these other authors went there. It's supposed to be this kind of stepping stone for literature. And I'm really interested to see how this bookstore came to be, but also how it ended up changing the world and bookshops and kind of what is going to happen in the end. And spoiler, kind of, I don't know actually if it says it in this book or not, but we are going to be going to go and visit Shakespeare and Company when we go to Paris. And we already know that it's not the same shop. So the shop has changed. This shop ended up changing their name to Shakespeare and Company, I think a couple years ago. I'll go ahead and put the information down in the description if you would like to read more about it. This is a historical fiction, and I'm really excited to read this on my way to Paris next week. Another one that's kind of random, but a book that I've been looking for over a year. I was determined to buy this book in a bookshop, and if you follow me on Instagram, you know which book I'm talking about. But I've been trying to find this book for over a year in a bookshop, and I kept looking, and finally I just ordered it. Don't worry, I ordered it from the bookshop online. But this one is A Diary of a Void by Emi Yagi. This is one of those books that's going to make you feel uncomfortable and awkward, and just one of my favorite words in German, you're going to have Fremdschämen. So you're going to feel uncomfortable for this character, and you're going to feel that uncomfortableness as if you're living that life. And it's going to be so cringy. And I know it sounds like a weird thing to want to read, but we follow a young woman who pretends to be pregnant, and she is using her pregnancy as a way to get out of things that she doesn't want to do. For example, cleaning up cups at her office, being able to leave early from her office, being able to sit down in this train. And the question then becomes, when do you stop pretending to be pregnant? Like, how do you stop pretending to be pregnant? And when is too far? So I'm only about 30 pages into this, so it's my TBR, but I'm currently reading, sorry. And I'm so fascinated and so concerned all at the same time. Very intriguing so far. And another one that I'm saying is kind of in the middle, Men Without Women by Murakami. I read After Dark last year, and I thought it was just this interesting book that just has a lot of dark, atmospheric vibes that are kind of traveling throughout it. And if you've read After Dark, you kind of know what I'm talking about. I mean, it takes place between, I believe, like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's the whole novel, is just after dark, between dusk and dawn. And it's just a very intriguing and uncomfortable novel because you're following these very dark and weird ideas. So I thought Murakami would be a perfect author to pick up during the season because I believe he's going to be carrying on again with those interesting, uncomfortable, dark kind of thoughts. This is actually a collection of short stories, so maybe we're going to have a couple like not so dark stories, but I think this will be very intriguing, very interesting. And Murakami is just, for me, a fall author. I just think their books just fit in the fall season for me, or maybe early winter, but I'm looking forward to reading this and kind of getting more involved with Murakami's writing. Now we're going to kind of travel more into the Gothic horror type novels. This season is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I really love the autumnal feels that we get from the fall season because it's very beautiful with the color changes of the leaves and also new flowers, but different types of flowers. The world is just turning into this like different atmosphere completely, and we have a lot of play with decay and darkness, but also a lot of light and coziness, and it's just a very interesting time of the year. And so even though I have a lot of cozy books, I still really enjoy bringing in a little bit of that dark Gothic feel as well. And so one book I picked up, this is actually a debut novel. I saw this novel being mentioned in another YouTuber's channel, and it's called Smother Moss by Elisa Alluring. This is supposed to be an uncomfortable adventure into this mountain, and it's sticky and gross and confusing. And from my understanding, it reminds me a lot about Bunny and kind of the confusion, and the plot is almost disconnected. It's going to be very intriguing, I think. I think I'm going to very much enjoy this one. We end up following two sisters who live on a mountain, and a gruesome, terrible murder ends up happening on this mountain. One of the sisters is very intrigued at figuring out who the murderer is, and one of them is trying to figure out how to just survive. And they end up having their two different stories. We end up kind of having this integrated almost consciousness about how the story is written, because we're jumping between the perspectives of both the sisters, but also we're jumping between the perspective of also the mountain itself, and how the mountain feels this darkness, this almost like tumor, this festering tumor, this festering pimple that's living on the mountain, and the mountain's bringing it up quite often. And so very intriguing, very dark, a little bit Gothic, and a little bit uncomfortable. So if you're looking for a novel that's going to make you feel a little bit weird, or if you liked Bunny, I think you'll like this one as well. One that I saw come out not too long ago and I'm really excited to read is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I've read one other novel by Ava Reid. I enjoyed it. I thought it was intriguing and well written and super, the atmosphere that was in that, I believe it's called The Woodsman, The Wolf and the Woodsman, that's what it's called. The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. The atmosphere in that novel was very well done. It was this magical uncomfortableness where you just have this mystery of what's going to happen and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen at all times. It's very well written and I think very, very folly as well, but I think I prefer it during the winter season. Lady Macbeth is maybe a little bit more out of my wheelhouse because we're kind of playing with the idea of politics a little bit in this one, but we're also playing with witches and magic and uncertainty and a little bit of Gothicness. I don't know very much about it, but I think it'll be very fun to read. And the cover is just so moody, so Gothic. One that's a little bit daunting, but I am so excited to read. I've been wanting to read this for the past couple months, but I thought maybe it'd be perfect for this season, and that's why I've kept it on the side. And that's House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a big book, and it's hard to explain, I think, because I don't know very much about it, other than it's a haunted house. There's weird stuff happening inside this house. It's messed up, it's confusing, and it's uncomfortable. If you haven't noticed, uncomfortable is a very popular word in some of these books. And it's not just the story that's daunting, but this book is actually written very different from a lot of other books. And it's going to take me a little while to read, I think. And this is a book I cannot lay in bed and just read. It's a book that I'm going to have to actually sit down and read to try to understand. And we've ended up following different perspectives and different stories and news articles and texts and all these other things. And so I'm really excited to read this. It's supposed to be very, very good, but also a little upside down. Literally, there's pages in here that are upside down. So I am looking forward to it, but I know it's going to be a bit of a heavy book to read, but I'm really excited to read it this fall. The last three, I have three more, but these two are connected. So I picked up a novel about a year ago when we were at Powell's Bookshop, and it's called The Dream Quest of Velit Bo. I picked this up because, one, it's short. I loved the cover. And I thought it looked so interesting and so fascinating. What I didn't realize is that this book is also connected to H.P. Lovecraft's The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. So before I read this one, or before I read this one, I want to read H.P. Lovecraft's The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. So I've picked up this collection of H.P. Lovecraft's novels, or stories, and one of them is actually that story. It's a novella. It's supposed to be weird and confusing and uncomfortable, but also quite captivating. It's also one of those stories that pretty much changed how certain writing was written, certain writings were done. And so I'm really quite intrigued with H.P. Lovecraft's stories and his writing style. I've heard that The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath can be very confusing, but also really fascinating. And some people love it, some people aren't a big fan of it. But I definitely want to read that before I read The Dream Quest of Velit Bo. And this one is about a woman. Let me actually explain Lovecraft's story is about a man who's dreaming of the city, and at one point he wants to visit the city, but he can't get there. And it ends up being a quest on getting to that place. I don't know very much about it, but that's what I know. This one is about a woman who ends up needing to find somebody in this dream world. And so we end up following her story on trying to get there and trying to get to that person. So I think these are both going to be very intriguing, very cool, and definitely out of my wheelhouse of what I would normally read, and definitely very funky, but I'm excited. The last one is a surprise, and I'm really excited to talk about this one. So this isn't a book, it's a book box. It's a book subscription. I haven't done a book subscription before, so this is my first one, and I currently don't have the box here. So I might have to actually share it next week, but this is a book box for people who like to read horror books. And I thought it would be so fun to subscribe to this book box this year or this season so I can see what kind of mystery horror books are coming. So we don't know exactly what's in the box, but we do know there's 3 books, and it's called, the book box is called Abdominal Book Club. And I'm so excited to get the books. They also come with stickers and little goodies and stuff like that. I'll put them in the description below if you want to check them out. And I will also share the book box once I get it. But we're supposed to be getting 3 books in that book box that are connected to horror stories or creepy stories. And that is kind of my 15th book. So I'm really excited to pick those up, but I do want to make sure I'm putting them as one of my priorities this season, because I want to make sure I'm reading those books during the right season and the right time. And for me, I love reading horror books or scary books during the fall Halloweeny time, so I think it'll be absolutely perfect. So those are my 15-ish books, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed this list. If there's any of the books on this list that you would love to read with me, let me know, or you can follow me on Instagram. I always list the book I'm currently reading on Instagram, so you can go ahead and find me there. But if you're interested on what book I'm going to be reading next, I can also start posting it in the community tab so we can read them together, and maybe we can add like a little book club and talk about the books together, if you would like. And if you've read any of these, I would love to know what your opinions were also. Or if you have other books that are on your fall TBR, I would love to hear what they are, because maybe I'll add some more to my fall TBR. Not that I need to, but maybe I will. So with all of that, you guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you guys enjoyed this fun fall surprise video. And next week we're going to be doing our fall starter pack. I'm really excited to share it, and I think it'll be loads of fun. So until next week, you guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. Ciao!